Select Board. You would join me for our traditional pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, by the looks of our agenda, we're going to run about 90 minutes tonight. Some of it's going to be an executive session. I would kick off tonight's meeting by welcoming Ann Overbashet once again. Congratulations. Would also be remiss not to recognize the contributions of Kelly Grant. Kelly, I consider a good friend, and her contributions to Charter, Bellingham 300, FinCom, Capital, and this select board. Her voice was well heard, and she was instrumental. I've seen a lot of people over the last 15 years on this board, and I rank her amongst some of the most contributory to the board. Later in the agenda, we have a section that's going to speak to how best to handle her departure. We kick off the meeting 7 o'clock to the Cultural Council interview with Gavin Fisk. Gavin here? Yes. Yeah, would you join us briefly?
How's everyone tonight?
How are you?
On a rainy night. So Hillary shares with us that you have interest in getting involved with the community, and this seemed like a likely starting point. So maybe you could talk to us how you got here and what you see in the future.
I just moved to Bellingham about 4 months ago. I grew up in Walpole my whole life. I'm right now working in Dover.
Okay.
Been there for about 8 years. And I wanted to get involved in Walpole for a long time, but I knew I was going to be moving to Bellingham.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to get involved and make that commitment and then have to leave in the middle of it. So I was waiting until I planted myself, and here I am. And now I want to get involved. I have a 2-year-old, and I wanted to know what's going on in the community and to be aware of what's going on and see if there's any activities for him and help prepare activities for kids, and if there's anything going around the town that I can help out with.
Fantastic. I see that you are currently the assistant treasurer collector for the town of Dover.
Yep.
And you've been working 8 years in municipal environments.
Yep.
I think it's admirable. I wish more people would get involved with the community. So, any questions from the board?
No, it's the same thing. I think it's very admirable getting involved. Thanks for stepping up.
Any questions for us as you move forward into this new role? It's okay if you have none. You'll figure it out
No, right now.
All right. And it's required a vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Gavin Fisk to the Cultural Council.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Welcome aboard. We look forward to hearing good things from you, and keep the other members of the Cultural Council in mind.
All right.
All right.
Great.
I'll be
Thank
in
you.
you very much.
I'll let you know the next steps.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
The next part of our agenda is a community garden update, and we have Mickey DeFossis, and Mickey's joining us online. So if you're in the in-house, you can see her on the screen. And Mickey, I'm not sure if you're muted or not, but the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. I was hoping to share a screen with you just to kind of go over some of the garden metrics and some things that we've experienced this past year. If I could have someone help me to share a screen, that would be awesome, and then you can see what I'm presenting.
You should be all set to share your screen. I made
Okay.
you a co-host.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. I'll
You're
switch over now to just show you our lovely garden. These are some of the things that we've experienced throughout the season, just the beautiful growth and development, and throughout the past 4 years.
Mickey, if I could interrupt, we're not seeing your screen.
Oh, you are not? Okay. Let's see. Okay, started video. I don't know what to do at this point.
Pam, do you have any suggestions?
Okay, here we go. I think I'm at the point where I can share screen now. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen at this point.
You are screen sharing now, yes.
Okay, awesome. This is a beautiful garden here. We can, hopefully you can see some of the wonderful things that have grown over the season. We have some beautiful tomatoes, some wonderful plants that we all started from seed. And then we have the garden club that's been pretty active in trying to support the community, and also the wonderful activities that we've had throughout the season, including our recent Oktoberfest here, and the development and growth that has come in over the seasons, the past 4 seasons. We're frequented by lots of beautiful wildlife that comes into the garden, in addition to help keep control over some of the pests, and also some of the population that we don't want there. But we also get the nice insects and the butterflies, and also some of the lovely bees that come in to help pollinate. So we've been doing very well as a garden community in growth and development. I wanted to show you some of the numbers so that you could see hopefully a little bit here. As you can see, we have about 17 plots out of 20 that are leased on side A. So we've subdivided the 40 plots available into quadrants of 20. So on the left side of side A, we have 17 out of 20 plots that are fully leased. On side B, we have 6 plots that are fully leased on the second side. And then we've allocated 3 spots for the greenhouse, the raised beds, which we have multiple in, and 2 compost piles and 2 walkways for safety. So the total allocated space that's being used currently is about 26 plots out of the 40 that's active. We do have 1 raised bed that's still available for rental or lease, and for the total for that we have currently, as I said, is 26 out of the 40 plus the 1 raised bed. So for 2024 season, we have about 12 plots that are available for leasing. Throughout the past 4 years, we put in a beautiful greenhouse. We've had some nice changes to the farm stand, improvements to the community, and as I mentioned, the communal members are very excited to go forward. Some of the challenges, however, that we've experienced is obviously the climate, which has affected us a little bit adversely. Some of the rain, we've had a little bit of turnover in some of the plots. And so we're kind of faced with a decision at this point of how to proceed forward. For myself, I've managed the garden for the past 3.5 seasons, and I've loved doing every minute of it. I am at the point though now where my plate is pretty full, but I've had the support of a wonderful team of advisory members on advisory board that we onboarded about the 2nd year of the leasing of the plots, and also some wonderful team leaders that I've worked with closely. The challenges, as I mentioned, that we faced is that we're seeing a little bit of a decrease in management of the, not so much management, but care and maintenance of individual plot spaces. So overall, the overall communal members are doing very well. However, there are some that are difficult to manage. So that space requires a lot of de-weeding, a lot of care and maintenance. And so everyone is pretty much put on a very good schedule relative to mowing and maintenance and so forth. I'll switch over here so you can see the performance metric. So what we do is we basically ask individuals to recognize the fact that we're communal, where we all participate together. We're active in the mowings, we're active in the plot care and compliance. And then we have a safety and also a compliance officer that kind of oversees some of those areas there as well. What you're looking at is the overall snapshot picture when we step back. So during a given season, we have about 6 to 7 mowings that each individual is required to do from the start of May through to the closure of October of each year. When we look at the mowings relative to the actual completion, as an example, I'm using this as a Jane Doe example. You in a 6 to 7 mowing season, you may have about 3 that this individual would have missed. And then we're asking individuals to participate in communal days, which is only 2 for the entire season, a spring cleanup and a fall cleanup. So that being said, for this particular metric here, we've captured the fact that this individual was not a high performer in the garden. And unfortunately, it's put everyone at a loss in terms of being able to maintain the space in the proper way. What we're recommending is that for individuals that are not fulfilling their obligations relative to the plot agreement is that there be a fee increase. I think the fee increase and the board, the garden board feels the same way. The fees increase would help individuals to, one, appreciate the space, but also recognize the fact that it is a lease space that has to be maintained. So if we were to step back and look at the season of 2023, you'll notice here as I'm sliding down, here's our individuals where their performance measures reflect similar to the Jane Doe example above, where weeks throughout the season were missed in terms of mowing. Participation was only 1 out of 2 participants were active in that during that given season. And so this individual will be recommended for a plot fee increase. Now, the subsequent one would reflect a very similar type of picture there where the fees increase would be recommended. And the reason why we feel that that would be helpful is because it would help individuals to appreciate the fact that we all work as a team, and that it becomes very difficult for us to proceed forward if we have links of chain that are not tightly, clad together, because then the work becomes double fold for other individuals. So this is an example of what we would ask the town to be supportive of in terms of a fee increase, and also to recognize the fact that we do need that support relative to the town. I'm also asking that there be another garden manager going forward that could kind of step into that space. I'd be happy to guide them. I mentioned that to Kelly a few months ago, about 3 months ago, just because I'm not able to keep up with personal matters and maintaining the garden as well. But I am happy to be supportive of any individual that could step into that space. I know some community gardens even have DPW, or they may have another group come in that's very supportive. So that's kind of where we are now. We do have one individual, I would be remiss to not mention that, who has not been compliant in any respect. So they do have multiple areas where we are very concerned about where they have not been supportive of the mowing and the maintenance. And there's been some plot issues relative to plot disease. So for that particular individual, we're very concerned about them and feel as though that more action needs to be taken. And hopefully that will give you a snapshot of where we are. Overall, we're all excited as individuals. We want to continue forward with the garden, but we just need some support and feel as though that that would be the best direction for the garden going forward.
Questions from the board?
Really have a question. I have a concern. I mean, Mickey, are you saying that you would like a new manager of the garden, that you would like to step back?
Yes, unfortunately, I do have to step back just because I do have a lot of personal responsibilities going on. I do want to stress the fact that I want to stay in the garden. And I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I want to continue certainly as a farm manager, meaning that I do want to continue with the farm stand there because I'm active in that. I think a lot more of my time should be devoted more towards the farm stand. But I know that given the fact that individuals do have a very strong leadership presence, I set some really good rules in place and, kind of set the stage for what individuals are able to do going forward in terms of maintaining the space. So it would just be a matter of an individual stepping in and just kind of picking up where I left off. And like I said, I'd be happy to guide or support any individual that is willing to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple of quick questions. Are the people that don't live up to their expectations simply not understand what was expected of them?
No, I wish that were the case because that would be a very quick learning curve. No, they are fully understanding of it. They know the plot agreement very well. I just give you a quick example. An individual mentioned to me that it was too hot to mow. So, grass grows every day. And even though it's hot, we all still have to participate, and it's only 6 to 7 mowings for an entire season. So we're talking from the time of May through October. But that particular individual, as I mentioned, is a little bit we're very concerned about their attitude towards the space. And so we feel as though if we had a little bit more of teeth, something to work with, where for those that did not fulfill the agreement, if they had higher plot fees, that might be just what's needed to help an individual to appreciate, what they have and why it's important to comply with the space. If that makes
Thank
any
you
sense.
for the update. And certainly, information we'll have to digest and take steps for next year.
Thank you.
Anything you need of our board at this point?
I believe that going forward, we just need to talk a little bit more about who can step into that particular area. And then also to the fee increase amount. Currently, you are receiving $100 per plot for the season. And so I think for those that are fully compliant, their fees have always been significantly reduced. So for individuals that have been fully compliant, their fees are only $40 for the season. That was discussed with Dennis, and we agreed to that amount. That seemed to be a good amount. So they were eager to return, and they're doing very well. I would love to see that amount go forward for those that are compliant. For those that are not compliant, I think the additional beyond the $100 for the new memberships or those that are not compliant would certainly be something to consider.
Similar to our appointments, I think that Hillary, maybe we can just get a one-page document together and we can take a vote at the next meeting.
One-page document to.
Outline the fees and anything that we would probably have to put on the website.
Sure.
I got one question.
Yeah, sure.
Mickey, what do you suggest for the price increase, and what are you thinking about the new agreement fee?
Great question. I think that probably since you're currently receiving $100 for new members coming in, I think it would be more than reasonable to go to $125 for those that are not compliant. And
$125 for the new members.
I'm sorry, $100 for new members,
Yep.
keep that amount, but then for those non-compliant,
Yep.
to go to $125.
And then those who are compliant is 40?
Yes.
40, okay. perfect.
Existing.
Existing, okay.
Existing is compliant.
Compliant. Because
Thank
they
you.
work very hard. Thank you very much.
That's something we could put on the website, that they're looking for a new garden manager.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Could I ask you, Nikki, do you have a suggestion as to who would be a good garden manager who could pick up those reins?
I do. I am trying my hardest to talk her into the role. She's a little gun shy, but I know if she had enough support, or felt as though there was support from the town of Bellingham, I believe that she could perhaps be encouraged to step into the position. She's more than capable, and she's a very pleasant individual to work with, very pleasant.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky.
And you'll take back over the screen. Okay. Next up, we have updates from our Veteran Services Program. Martin Anna.
I'm going to do a little introductory and then I'll let.
Sure.
CFO.
I ran into Art downstairs this morning and he promised that he was gonna keep this short, right?
It's hard. It's gonna be difficult, but I'll try.
Your handlers are here.
Exactly. I don't know if I like the way you said that, or I don't like the way you said it.
Just as a quick summary, we have had a very busy summer for the past 2 months. And it's been great seeing the veterans come in throughout the day. I just wanted to hit on a couple of highlights before I hand it over to the experts. The program is funded by a combination of state and local funds. Department Veteran Services pays 75% and the city or town pays 25% of approved benefits. Fiscal year 23, we had 11 veterans or independents who received benefits. Currently, we have 10. Total benefits paid out to recipients was $74,215 actual reimbursement. From the Department of Veteran Services was 4819. Fantastic numbers. I mean, it's nice to see the money being used to the veterans. Anna worked with the people from Boston to go over our finances. They're all in balance for 2023. Everything is good. We've closed our fiscal year. So I'm going to let Anna explain what the process is going forward, your monthly process and all of that fun stuff.
First, I just want to do a little brief summary on what chapter 115 is. Mass General Law 115 provides for needs-based, means-tested program of financial and medical assistance for veterans and their dependents with little income. Qualifying veterans and their dependents receive necessary financial assistance for food, shelter, clothing, fuel, and medical care in accordance with a formula which takes into account the number of dependents and income from all sources. Eligible dependents of deceased veterans are provided with the same benefits as if the veteran was still living. And like Beth said, the program is a combination of state and local funds. As of August 19th, the audit was completed to reflect the town's dollar amounts that were dispersed to veterans and dependents, and the accounts have been closed for fiscal year 2023. Tracy Brown from the Veteran Service Office and myself met with Lindsay Gentile, Treasurer Collector, to explain the process of certifying the end of month and set her up in virtual gateway to be vetted by the state of Massachusetts to access this information. We explained to Lindsay that we were closed out for the months for fiscal year 2023, and she would need to go into the system and certify all the records which have been done. Going forward, at the end of each month prior to the warrant being closed out, vouchers will be submitted to Carol Mandilli so that she can mail out the checks. Lindsay and I will meet to reconcile the dollar amounts in virtual gateway. Once that's done, I can then go ahead and close out the month, and Lindsay can check off that it's been reconciled and close out the month on her end. And that's it. Any questions?
Are you doing the voucher with Lindsay?
Yes.
Okay.
We set up a time and a day to meet, and then we go over the numbers to make sure that they're reconciled.
That's fine.
So that's our technical and our money. And now I invited Art to come by to explain briefly about how all the vets that come in.
Keep saying that.
I don't know, Art.
All right, I expect an after action for you.
You betcha. All right, I will stick with the script. My name is Art Campbell. I'm the Veteran Service Officer with our Department of Veteran Services here in Bellingham. One of the things that I mentioned when I first started here in July is I'm an accredited Veteran Service Officer with the VA. So I provide an extra level of care for our veterans, extra level of service for our veterans. Anna's given us an update on the Massachusetts Chapter 115 side of our department. So I'm going to go ahead and update us on the VSO, Veteran Service Officer side. Started in the beginning of July. We immediately, when we had another body on board, we increased the hours to our department so that the office would be open 5 days. So we're open 5 days a week now. I man the office on Monday afternoons, on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays all day. Anna mans the office on Fridays. Anna handles virtually all of the Chapter 115 stuff that we do, all the Chapter 115 needs-based benefits from the Executive Office of Veteran Services. and I maintain the VA side of it. So we were able to move into a larger office. We have a dedicated phone line. We updated the town website to put out our new office hours and our new phone number. Eventually, Melissa, she's probably not here, but she finally was relieved of having to transfer phone calls over to our office from her line or that town line. We don't log walk-ins, but we get 2, 3, sometimes more walk-ins every week. These are guys, they're veterans off the street or from our community that come in to see what benefits they might be able to take advantage of. So most contacts we get by phone calls, and we presume that's from the updated website that includes the phone number and hours we're open. Vets also will often stop by or frequently stop by the office just to stop by and check on their claims, see how things are going, and they do it mainly because they can. The office is open. We have people in there now, or we have someone in there virtually every day of the week. Having a VA accredited veteran service officer in the department allows us to provide invaluable service to our clients in assisting the veterans, their families, and survivors to access benefits from the VA or the Veterans Benefits Administration, as well as Veterans Health Administration and the National Cemeteries Administration. Mass General Law 115 requires veterans agents to seek out and find alternate sources of aid for our veterans. So these alternate sources of income can offset the financial burden to our local taxpayers or to our taxpayers in general. VA compensation, pension, and survivors dependency indemnity compensation, known as VIC, are alternate avenues for assistance that's shared on a national level rather than on a local level for our Bellingham taxpayers. And then as Beth has said and Anna's implied, we are very fortunate in that Bellingham pays out Chapter 115 benefits to our veterans in need, but then Bellingham gets reimbursed by the state at a pretty high level. So we're able to provide the benefits, and it still is cost effective for our taxpayers. Let's see here. Data from the VA. Now, this is dated from October of 22 because we don't have October of 23 or the latest data compiled for October of 23 yet. But for our zip code here in Bellingham, 02019, we have 229 vets. Now, we're just talking the VA side of the house right now. We're only talking the VA, not necessarily the veterans that are getting Chapter 115 benefits, although often that does overlap. On the VA side, we have 229 vets that reside in Bellingham receiving $353,624 for compensation claims alone. We have 6 vets receiving $8,469 for pension claims. So those are veterans with a VA pension. We have 30 households receiving $45,700 for survivors pension, or that DIC, Dependency Indemnity Compensation, DIC, Dependence Indemnity Compensation. And we have 4 death pensions that were awarded in 2022 for $4,296, almost $4,300. So what we have there is 269 awards totaling $412,700 for survivors pension or DIC correction. Let me step back. I skipped a line here. 269 awards totaling $412,000. And that averages about $1,531 per household. So per month. So you can see that we are providing a tremendous service through the VA for our veterans here. And our goal is to keep these numbers rising. Since July 1st, we've had an intake of 36 new veteran cases. So from then until now, we've had 36 new veterans cases. We're able to provide VA assistance to all veterans in Massachusetts. However, of these new cases, 23 of them, so 23 out of 36 are Bellingham residents. So we're seeing a tremendous impact just in our Bellingham veterans population. We're able to interview clients, upload claims and documents in support of these claims directly to the VA database rather than forwarding these claims up to Massachusetts Executive Office of Veteran Services. This gives us a lot more leeway, gives us a lot more opportunity to help the veterans, to actually interview the veterans and find out what the veterans' needs are specifically, and sort of tailor their requests and their applications for compensation claims or pension claims to their specific needs. This saves time and efforts on the veterans' part, as well as on the VSO and the Mass Executive Office of Veteran Services. We don't have to, we can submit these documents directly. We don't have to forward them up the ladder to Boston to have them submitted. So that's pretty helpful. We've uploaded, in that respect, or towards that, we've uploaded 43 packages of docs to the VA. We have 12 of those were compensation claims. One appeals in work right now, it's actively in work, and 3 survivors' pension claims are in work. So, and we're able to service these claims from here. We can service them from our office rather than having to email or call up to Boston to Executive Office of Veteran Services, ask some folks up there to look into a claim, give us some answers, get it back down to us to where we can disseminate that information out to the veterans. We're able to do that directly from our office. So, in closing, I'm just going to say, I believe, and I hope that y'all agree that the Veteran Services Department has been very successful, and we're working hard to make it better. Day by day, we're making it better and better. So, if there's any questions, I'm hoping that Anna can answer them.
Thank you. No, I have none. I mean, I've talked to Art off and on, and, you know, I see Anna every once in a while. I'm, you know, very impressed with how the office is going. You guys definitely be proud of yourselves.
Thank you.
You know,
One of the, if I may interrupt you, Mike, we talked about this briefly several times, but we are planning a veterans outreach event between now and the end of the year, sometime in November. Planning a veterans outreach event at the VFW post here in Bellingham. We're going to include members from the community, different services that might be available from the community, veterans personnel from the regional office in Providence. And so we'll be able to hopefully reach out and actually contact and gather in more veterans that are in need.
yeah, I'm nothing short of impressed. I mean, you have the ride service that's over in Woonsocket at American Legion 85. That's right at the door when you walk in. That is one of the biggest concerns that I see where I am and where I work. You know, people can't get, you know, to their appointments. So I know I actually helped start the program, and at Post 85 in Fairmount, I was able to help them secure the car.
Excellent.
So if any veteran needs a ride, I mean, that's big thing, the claims. I have no doubt that the veterans of Bellingham are in good hands.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for everything you've done so far.
Just, yeah, thank you. I think you're doing a marvelous job.
I'm gonna make a shameless plug at, if you're gonna do something.
I'm sorry.
If you're gonna do something in November, I think we should hook you up with the Bellingham Bulletin, who would have a October 15th deadline to put an article in the
Good to know.
paper.
Thank you, Mike.
And Jim Begley, one of the veterans in town, does a nice job with Welcome to Bellingham, and
Certainly.
he does a lot of coffee with the veterans.
He's the one who I was
Yeah.
initially got me
Yep,
going. He was like, can we get this?
yeah, and Kevin Callan, the new post commander.
Exactly. Now,
727.
if I may, this might be talking out of turn, and if it is, please advise. Is there any, what kind of a budget do we have for outreaches like this? You got information on that? Oh, okay. Oh, I mean, I'll keep my time short if you just give me money. All right.
Well, thank you both.
Anything else?
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next topic on our agenda is the introduction of the Board of Health agent, and oddly enough, when I was given the name, I kind of scratched my head and said, I know the name, but it can't be the same person. And lo and behold, it is the same person. So I'd introduce Dylan Labonte as our new Board of Health agent, and of course, Vinny. I met Dylan about 7 years ago at the high school when he was part of Bellingham Friends of Music and a little bit of sports, and we've gone full circle. So welcome, and Vinny, I'll give you the floor.
I'll be brief. Maybe.
I'll brief.
Yeah, I think it was the 6th September, we hired Dylan Labonte as our health agent for the town of Bellingham. He's young, he graduated from the University of Massachusetts Lowell with a bachelor's in public health. lifelong resident. Let's say, how do I say it, educated in our schools in Bellingham. And now he'll be our health agent for the future. And already we started Thursday. I'm the acting health agent on the septics and other things, on plan review and perk tests and soil evaluations. Steve Dunn at Health. So he'll join the inspectional services group. He'll be a health agent with our other agents. He worked with Robert Griffin on stings for alcohol.
Cigarettes.
Excuse me, cigarettes, right?
Yep.
Cigarettes. And so Robbie's been bringing him along on a few other things. So Thursday we're out on housing inspections, septic inspections, trash and litter that leads to people saying, I see rats coming out of dumpsters. We found some pretty filthy dumpsters. Company's gonna clean it up. Housing complaints, well, they're in places you don't expect them. And then septics, well, they are what they are. So, and we're going to fix the problem. Like people do inspections and forms and they don't do them right, so they don't follow the rules, so they will get educated on how to do that. And he's gonna be right up there making sure that everything's done. So I'm already impressed with his detective abilities and follow-up on stuff. It's pretty impressive. So anyway.
Well, it's nice to see a Bellingham grad make good by college education and come back and serve the community. So that's a huge plus. Any thoughts from the board?
I think you just said it, you just nailed the man on the head, it's just fantastic.
He's a French music person, so he's all.
Thank you.
Great job, Dylan.
Thank you.
He has to achieve a few licenses to sort of move up the pay scale, but other than it'll be relatively easy, especially going out in advance, learning from the agents that have done it or are doing it when people are sick or people are in between agents. So he'll get good training and then he'll move on, and take the actual courses and the exams. I have no problem. Think he'll pass with flying colors.
Yeah, I have no,
He tests well. He said.
yeah, I have no qualms with learning. I'm a sponge and I just wanna come in and just improve the community. That's all I really wanted to do. As you mentioned, I went to UMass Lowell for my board, for the public health degree and, just when I was there, I just knew I wanted to take my knowledge back to the town and just make the town a better place and just a healthier place to live. So I'm excited to do that.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Dylan.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yep.
So our next topic on the agenda may be the reason why we have a number of people in attendance, may not be. But our 7:30 agenda item is an update on the town administrator and CFO search. I see John Petrin is online and zooming in. Beth, is there anything you would add to introduce the process?
I would just like to introduce the fact that John has been working since July, starting to get things around, and he's compiled good information out there to get good people to apply for the job. So he's kept us sort of up to date, but I wanted to bring him here tonight so that he could explain the next step of what is going to happen for both positions and where we stand right now. So John, it's all yours.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And good to be back with the board. I've had the opportunity to meet with each member of the board, including last week with the newest member. So congratulations, Ann, on that. I'd like to basically, report some good news. So we did close the application process. We did receive 27 applications for the position of town administrator. Which is definitely on the higher side of the norm of what we've been seeing. So we say anywhere from 20 to 28 these days. So having 27 was good. Some very good applications to review. So we're in a process of reviewing all the applicants at this point in time. The next step of the process, as outlined to us, was to have a professional panel. So we'll put that panel together, and over the next few weeks, we'll be interviewing candidates to be able to present finalists to the select board for interviews. Once we have the finalists selected, we will do background checks on each of those finalists and reference checks so that you have those prior to your interviews with those candidates. So we'll work with you as to a date later in October at this point for the final interviews. The one thing we will need to discuss is the process of the final interview with the board. We offer a service where we can assist the board with those interviews. And it works very well where I can work with the board. We'll present some suggested questions. We'll work on the questions prior to, but if you wish, I can ask the questions during the interview stage. It kind of helps with the flow of the meeting and also allows the board to sit back and be able to listen as to what's going on, but also be allowed to interject with follow-up questions or questions of your own at any point during the interview. Again, I want to make it clear, this is the board's interview. This is not our interview. We're here to assist you with that process. So those are, I think, where we are. We'll just start with the town administrator process. Right now, we'll transition over to the CFO. Let me see if any questions from the board as to the town administrator process.
This was what he told me the other day.
I have none.
Yep.
No, nothing so far.
Yeah, John, I would just say that I think you were right on target with the timetable that you gave us, which I think is encouraging.
Encouraging, we had 28 applicants.
Yeah. And I guess how do you measure the seriousness of an applicant? I think one of the greatest fears that I've talked to people about is if you were to get down to a short group of finalists, let's say 3 to 5, and 1 or 2 of them really aren't interested, and then it narrows the field too much.
So and that's an issue of the day and age we're in. So we will, what we'll do is we'll have alternate candidates in case the field does narrow, so that you have 3 candidates to interview. One of the reasons we went through the whole process of developing the position statement was we want to be clear as to what you're seeking. And I appreciate the conversations I had with each of you. And, we'll make sure we're understanding that the candidates, have seen what's written and what's real for the town of Bellingham, which is a community advocate. That part of the process we're understanding with that. So those would just be that's just one instance of area we'll follow up on when we interview with the candidates. I've already spoken to several of these candidates because, again, we did a recruitment process, not just an ad. So we made phone calls, we sent out notices to various people and called various people, and various of the candidates contacted myself, being the lead on the project. So we're already, working down towards that path of getting an understanding who's going to be serious about this process moving forward.
Thank you. Did you want to touch on more of the TA, the CFO?
Yep. So the CFO, I know the number doesn't seem large, but we did get 5 candidates, which is actually larger than we expected for that type of position. We do have a couple of those candidates that are definitely, worth an interview, have very good background. So one of the things I'd like to, get from the board is some direction as to how you wish to proceed with the interviews with these candidates. I've talked to Beth about this, and one suggestion would be to set up an interview panel with a couple of the board members and 1 or 2 other folks, so that we can check on, again, the status of these candidates.
Beth and I did speak about this, and I think it to be consistent with how we handled the police and fire chief, the chair and vice chair at the time sat in on those interviews to narrow the field. So unless there's any objections, myself and Sahan.
I have no objection.
Okay. All right, there you go, John.
Okay, great. And we could talk about, if you wanted, let me know who else. I had suggested maybe the superintendent of schools, as a consideration, HR director, as a consideration, on the interview process. But we can talk about how we can frame that over the next 2 weeks, and get some times and try to move that process forward.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
So that's all I have to report, Mr. Chair, unless there are additional questions at this time.
But just the people in the audience, as we look ahead, you and I talked about that many of the town administrator contracts will have a 30 or 60 or 90-day notice clause. When would you see the point where we would have those final interviews? And presumably within a week of that, make an offer to someone or negotiate with a target of January 1st to have them on board?
So right now, I'm targeting the last date of October as being reasonable for your interviews. And
Say the last meeting of October or a special meeting?
He said.
so we could talk about how we do this. You need, in essence, about 4.5 hours for
Yeah.
interviews. So I suggest you do it on an off meeting night.
Yeah.
You know, find some time, because 4.5 hours is, you know, it takes a little bit of time, and to mix it with your other business probably, you know, is not a good idea. We recommend you try to start late afternoon, early evening to get through the process. And we can talk about that as we get closer. But that's kind of the process that's used. So you should be, you know, need to set about 4 hours to 4.5 hours to interview 3 candidates.
Yeah, I think you and I, when we talked, it was starting at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and until finished.
Exactly. The earlier we can start, the better. I know that's sometimes difficult, you know, for board members who may have jobs, you know, type thing. So, so if we can work on that as we get closer, and we don't need to make that decision tonight, but that's kind of the process we would look at.
I'd ask Hillary to avoid open meeting issues, though. Poll the board separately and find 2 or 3 dates that we can all.
The last week in October, correct? Yeah.
All right. There you go, John. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you. I'm always available. Again, you have my number. If anything's coming up, be glad to, you know, talk to any board member at any point.
Thanks, John.
We have a half a dozen or so items under our other business portion of the agenda. Beth, I believe the first one's yours.
As the board members know, I've had some openings in the various offices. We've created a couple positions. Excuse me, allergies. In anticipation of the way that the offices are going and the volume of work. One of the positions I put out was an administrative assistant to the assessor's office. That person will cover mainly the front desk and the clerical work, and while the assessor and assistant go out in the field or are doing more intense investigations. So I posted that internally. When I do a job posting, I have to post internally to the union members first, and then I post externally. We were very fortunate to get an internal candidate who is interested, and she has applied. Betsy and I have met with her. Betsy being the assessor. Her name is Michelle Nolan. She currently is in the treasurer collector office as payroll coordinator. She started in 2005 with the town in the cafeteria. She then went to payroll in the treasurer's office in 2010, and she has stayed there the whole time. She is familiar with a lot of the programs and the work. She knows the players. I think it will be a very good fit, and I'm excited to have her expanding her expertise. That being said, I need the board to recommend and appoint her, and that also means that now I have 2 open positions in the treasurer collector office.
I'll entertain a motion to appoint Michelle Nolan to the position of administrative assistant in the assessor's office.
So.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
And just to clarify, she will not be moving over into the assessor's position until I have the replacement, because she does payroll. So we don't want to let that gap. So I'll be working, trying to get her to cross train and everything.
Next up, we have road on our August minutes on August 3rd, 14th, and 21st. I'll take them collectively unless anyone wants to break them down.
Give me the local.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chair, I'd like to move it for the, accept the August 3rd, August 14th, and August 21st meeting minutes as presented. I second.
First and second. Any further discussion? I'm told that you can vote or abstain because you could read them, but
I did read through all of them, but I will abstain because I wasn't here for it.
all of the favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, 3-0 with one abstention. Next topic on the agenda is the special election discussion with Kelly, Grant having departed the board. And we obviously, when Cindy McNulty left the board on one day after the last election, it created a 364-day hole in the board. But I'm interested in thoughts from the board. I don't want to start.
I think, you know, it's my personal opinion, and it's obviously it's we just finished one election, and I think, you know, it's we can make this through. When is the next election? June? Right. Yeah.
Well, it'll be May because it hasn't been accepted. The charter is not been
No,
accepted.
the bylaw.
It's a bylaw.
Yeah. Okay.
The first Tuesday in June.
Yeah, I think we can make it work. I mean, we just spent $13,000 on election, you know. I think we can go without another having a special election. That's my 2 cents. But of course, I think we can make it work. I'm all ears.
I tend to agree with you. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we just spent this money. You're talking about by the time you go through the 45 days and you do everything, and you're talking end of November.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy to do it. And then you have holidays. I think the 4 of us are quite capable of managing the town's affairs and getting prepared for the budget. I don't see a problem with the 4 of us doing it at all. I've sat on many 4-person boards, and you've had it here many times before.
I mean, I think we have town administrator, you know, the position, you know, we need to obviously be working on the process. And the CFO, I think that's gonna take quite a bit of time to do it and do it properly. And I think, you know, it's I think we should wait until June, you know.
I think we're fine.
I think it'd be fiscally irresponsible to have another special election. I think we just all need to work together. You know, show a united front and get the work done.
And
I think we're fine.
anyone listening in the audience that as far as it's like 5 situations, I know that when Mr. Spencer moved, Mr. Soder got elected. I had to step down to become athletic director and was reelected, Gary Mayhew passing. Been a 4-member board, so I think at this point of the election cycle, it's prudent. So
I think things are working, you know, with Mr. Connor being chair and vice chair, and your expertise and years of service to the town.
Thank you.
No, I'm being sincere.
No, I know.
I think we can get everything done.
I do too.
So for the sake of a formal vote, I would entertain a vote to take no action and no special election and finish the year with 4 members of the Bellingham Select Board.
So moved.
Second.
First and second. Ms. Lozado?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to remind everyone that while chapter 41, section 10 allows for the board to decide whether they want to go forward with a special election, it also allows for voters to petition for an election. And I just wanted to make you aware that I have been asked that question on several occasions in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So just so you're aware of that.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 4-0 Hillary. The next item on the agenda, we had one of our meetings in August was a discussion for emergency deficit spending. We were approached by the fire chief that engine 3 had to be taken out of service. Further to that engine was 16 years old. Further to that, we learned that it was engine 5 was on the road for 25 years of service. And there was a concern that we would not have engines available. And putting this into context, it is up to an 18-month lead time to get a fire engine. So the discussion was had to hold a request for emergency deficit spending to get us on a list on September 1st to be able to buy a fire engine in 18 months. And the outcome of that, Ann, is not to our liking.
If I may,
Yes, please.
one of the things that we were looking at was, as Mr. Chairman said, was special funding. We would have to go through the state because we did not, all our money is required to be spent according to town meeting. So we've already done all of our spending and allotted the money to it, even if we had tons of money in some place, if it wasn't voted to town meeting, we couldn't. The way that we could is there's a law that allows for special emergency funding. However, for the most part, that has to do with emergency spending. We as the select board, myself and Mary McKinnon, we were looking at it as far as we're concerned, it's an emergency because we want to have our fire trucks here. We are safe, we have the staff, we have everything, but we also have a long town. So we're trying to discuss with the state to see if we could get emergency funding. Unfortunately, they look at emergency funding in the definition being more of an act of nature. So if, like, there was the explosion of the gas in the houses, that of course was emergency. If there was something that, there was a flood and our vehicles were flooded and we couldn't drive them, that would be an emergency. They did not consider our request as an emergency. We did the whole process. We went through everything. I spoke to them many times, and the chief talked to them. But at this point, we were told no. So we are looking to do this at town meeting in November, because for us to go through the next step through the state, it would take an application. It would take a hearing. We would have to meet before one board that only meets 1 week, 1 day a month. And you have to have 3 weeks advance notice to them to get you onto their meeting. And you may not even be accepted for that agenda. With that timeline, we're in November. So we're just going for that.
So at this point, we received today our capital budget requests. And that process is going to be starting over the next,
Tomorrow.
it will take 4 to 6 weeks then.
Yep.
Leading up to town meeting. And we exhausted all options, and you know, sometimes you strike out, we try. So that segues into what I described or the agenda with upcoming events. And this will be old news for you, Ann, because you did it several times over the years.
Yeah.
And just informational for Mike, but in addition to looking for a CFO and town administrator over the next several weeks, in the next quarter, we are scheduled to do our annual setting of the tax rate. We of course have the budget, and we're dealing with several new department heads, so I think it's not a additional exercise, because we'll be dealing with those department heads. And it gets to the decision of, there's a 3-year cycle to review the enterprise budgets for water, trash, and sewer. So I think for our next meeting, we need to just determine whether it is prudent to jump into those enterprise reviews because they're public hearings, or push them off until Q1. I'm not averse to taking them on going into the fall, but it just means that our schedule's a little tighter and far more consuming, where we may end up scheduling some Saturday sessions to finish
And
some of it.
Q1 sounds really good.
Yeah, so I think it's something to think about, and the impact of that, because we are required to give the residents enough notice of any changes to the rates. And oddly enough, what we've learned is that when you have an extraordinarily wet summer, water gets more expensive because no one used the water over the summer to pay for the infrastructure. In a dry summer, water rates are lower, and in a wet summer, water rates go higher. And coming off a wet year, it would theoretically mean that our rates would naturally increase.
It's been wet.
Huh? It's been wet. It is an odd conundrum
It
for
is,
that.
I know, but it is a.
So I just put that out there as something that we can talk about together, if anyone has any thoughts on that, but we,
I
think
will defer to the people that have more experience
Yeah.
than what I have.
so I think we just put it on the agenda to decide what to do and whether we tackle the dates, because it's going to definitely may mean at least the 2 and potentially 3 or 4 meetings in a month. With that, jump into old business. Is there anything to be brought up? I have a couple items. Okay, so informationally, we had a resident that requested some information from us. Rosie, you all saw the letter that was distributed. There was a request from that individual to attend an upcoming meeting of the board. And my suggestion, but since this is the first time we can discuss it, is that our council has advised us that it is a civil matter or not a matter for the town, and that we would not entertain anyone coming from the board.
Right.
Good. So unless there's a reason to, I don't think there's a vote, but
I can say that the resident has been reaching out to me significantly quite a bit. I've spoken to Mr. McCarty quite a bit. My interpretation is I think this resident just wants to be heard. She's been heard. Tim has literally bent over backwards, in my opinion, about the situation. But I mean, if she wants to be heard, basically my last conversation with her is like, you are more than welcome as a resident, as a registered voter to attend any town meeting as these individuals had, but it is at the discretion of the chair of the board. If you are to be heard.
well, I would,
I'm
I'm opening this up to
Yeah.
say if we agreement. I think town council has advised us that the issue is dead.
town council. I don't know, would Tim mind just giving us some background with everything you've done?
I think just at a very high level, if you think that that the
Sure.
avenues that have been exhausted.
Sure, so, we had complaints about, the issues for, it was a shooting, had to do with, a shooting range private. I pretty much, vetted out the whole situation. It's not a simple situation, so I consulted town council. We met, several select board members, met, town administrator to try to put our heads together to figure out, whether it was something that the town would have something to do with or could do anything to help this resident. At the end of the day, there is not anything that we could do. It ends up, town council advised us at the end that it's a civil issue and it's something that the town should not be getting involved.
I mean, my understanding is, she's even, I think, called Mr. Martinez on his home phone. About the matter as what it was explained to me.
Would you care for me to respond to the board?
I think we're good, if that's okay with
Fair
you.
enough.
Thank you. All right. I also put in the context, we have so much going on that to add this to the agenda,
So move on.
Okay, so the one thing that was brought up to me regarding the old home days, Bellingham days, was where the carnival got rained out on a Thursday night, whether and I don't have a preference either way. I would say whether it's beneficial. The carnival, the event is fantastic, but whether the carnival dissuades some people from attending, yet brings other people out. So there was some discussion as to whether in future years, whether it consists of a carnival or we do something more of a farmer's market, bands, food, and I just bring that up and further discussion. So
And fireworks.
And fireworks. So the people that were involved, I think are aware of that, but just whatever it does, whatever happens, I think we support either. The people have brought up. Any new business?
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to take this opportunity, my first full week of being elected. I want to thank Jesse and Sean at the DPW who graciously had me come and sit and explained everything they're doing and what they're involved in, and we had great talk about the parks and how we're going to be involved together with it, because I know there were issues with it. And I want to thank Chief Miller and Chief Fitzpatrick, who also had me in and sat with me and told me what they're up to and everything. So I felt that was really nice that they gave me the time, so I wanted to say thank you publicly to them.
One item that I left off of old business with Kelly Grant's departure, she was the representative of the board to the charter committee. And I don't believe that there's any further action, but having attended all of the meetings post town meeting and a few beforehand, I would like to just step in and be sitting there if anything comes up, to be the representative of the board. So, Mr. Martinez, if that's okay with you, if anything comes up.
Yeah.
One more larger item on the agenda and then executive session, town administrator's reports.
So I'll start off with good news, and especially since I know a lot of people have come. You will be happy to know that Dennis is feeling well enough that he comes in every week. He's stopped in to see the staff. So I'm very happy to have good news that he's out driving around, coming in and talking shop with us. So he's very pleased to have that. And I know all your best wishes meant a lot to him. The DPW, the bid is it opened on September 13th to get the bids in. There's going to be a pre-bid conference. This is on the new DPW building. Pre-bid conference on the 20th. The opening of those bids that come in is going to be on October 25th at 2 p.m. So we're now getting down to reality with it. Harpin Street for the handicap, they were delayed because of the rain. It rained. So they are delayed, but they have been working with the school closely. There have been no complaints from the school. They're very conscious of making sure that the kids are safe. The line striping, we actually have been told that they should have the whole town done this year. In the past, we haven't been able to get it all done, but they have been able to get all of it done, even with our weather. The Bellingham Power Choice Notices. This is the special program where we offer through the town. The town gets nothing, but this is the choice of your electric. And that will be coming out in October. I'm working on that. We have, you have several choices. One is if you take no action, you stay on the program. If you're on it, you stay on it. You can change to what's called the Power Choice Green option. This is a little more expensive because it's going for 100% renewable sources in the New England region. None of the fossil fuels. So it's a renewable energy source. So you do pay a little bit more for it, but it's obviously very environmentally safe. And the last one is you can leave the program with no penalty. So watch for that information. That'll be coming along. I'll be sending out in the beginning of October. So that's good news. And I think I do want to remind everyone tomorrow night, 4 p.m. in this room, we are having capital hearing for police, fire, and library. So that's great. And along the same line as Ann was saying, I want to once again thank all the employees, the staff, the boards for all the support that we've had. It's been fantastic having the help and the support of the board behind us. So it's been a unique summer, to say the least, but the staff has been fantastic, the volunteers, everyone, the community, and I appreciate it. So that's it for me.
Seems like a proven time to say thank you as well. We are
Thank you.
6 months in, or almost 6 months into Dennis's untimely departure. And I don't think when it first happened, we knew what the outcome would be. on Dennis. And we can now say that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, thanks to
And it's not
John's
a train.
presentation. So,
And thank you. Board has been very good to me.
yes. With that, we would adjourn now to executive session. And the language that we've been given at the advice of council is to vote on and hold executive session with the IT director to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law, i.e. the public records law, general ledger, general law, chapter 4, section 7, CL 26N. So the executive session is a meeting with our IT director. And with that,
And I'll pull the board to agree to go into executive session.
no discussion.
No discussion following. Mr. Connor?
Aye.
Aye.
That would conclude our motion to adjourn our normal session to an end.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Folks, thank you very much for attending. We don't typically have this numbers, and it's great to see you all.